Alright, we're at the Adirondack Division of the New York Central Railroad with Mr. Charlie Crawford in Marietta, Georgia today. I'd like to introduce you to Charlie. He's an MMR, and you're watching his trains run around his railroad. So, Charlie, how many years have you been modeling?
More than 24. Beyond that, I can't tell you.
And you're a master model railroader with the National Model Railroad Association.
That's correct.
And how many years have you been an MMR?
9 years.
9 years. All right. What station are we pulling into?
That's the Thendara station. We call it.
Yeah. All right, what scene are we coming through now, Charlie?
Trains now running into a wilderness area, or through a wilderness area, called Hunter's Rest. As you see to the right, there's a Scotchville log cabin that was part of my MMR, and there are cars coming by.
So you scratch built this cabin?
Yeah. Yes, scratch built the cabin. Oh gosh, in 2005.
Very nice. All right, tell us a little bit about this model right here at the Wood Lake Inn.
Well, it's Woods Lake Inn. It represents a backwoods inn that hunters would use. There's a small pond, a family on a rowboat, some folks sitting on the porch, and this was reachable only by train. And sadly, today it's gone.
So one of the things you've done, this is a very prototypical railroad, am I right?
Correct.
Tell us a little more about this inn. And this was a real place, correct?
Yes. Typically, there were many small hunting lodges and inns in the Adirondacks. Some of the hunting lodges are still there, and minimal accommodations, but food and drink and access to the backwoods and good hunting. And typically, through the 1950s, accessible only by train. There were not roads there. The railroad was access.
Now, Charlie, I've noticed the backdrops on your railroad. You did all these yourself?
I did. They're just flat interior house paints, and really did it with probably about a 2-inch painter's brush. The idea is to give the impression of forest background. It's not a painting well enough to stand on its own, but a nice backdrop for the models and the trains.
Tell me a little bit about your logging scene here. It's really, really nice.
This is more 20s, 30s era, but it was typical that by train, a logging company would come to an area with what they called crew cabins, and just carry them on the train, set them out, and log the area. And when the lumber was done, they would pack up and move on to another plot of land. Curiously, there was a lot of complaints with the clear cutting and all that, but the forest did regenerate, and today they actually welcome forestry because it's an aid to wildlife, and it's a renewable resource. And so they're still logging Northwoods, of course, today with much more automated equipment than this era where it was men with axes and saws and brute force.
Charlie, what are we looking at down the track right here? We got the passenger train coming at us.
This is Thendara, New York, which was the gateway to the Old Forge and the Fulton Chain of Lakes. It was a major terminal point for the railroad. There was a very small branch line here, and in 1992, when the railroad was activated as a tourist railroad, they were headquartered out of this depot. And so I just had to model it. The depot is scratch built. The two lumber warehouses are scratch built. This is Dease Mill, scratch built. The freight house, scratch built. And I liked it a lot. I like it a lot because it's someplace that's still working today.
All right, Charlie has a couple Stewart locomotives, 1635 on the lead. This is a northbound that left New York daily, full of bananas. So this was on its way up to Canada. This was a daily train. So this is an important train. It can't be late. Some nice looking cars on this. View of some of the cars. It's got some nice refrigerator hold cars. It's done a great job weathering them. I'll follow this freight around the layout some. Give you a chance to get familiar with the railroad a little.
Remsen.
All right, 1632, still heading northbound around the layout. 1635, still heading around the layout. It's pulling into one of its first stops. This is all DCC operation. Charlie runs a Digitrack control system on this. He's running a DT 400 throttle. And I'll show you a picture of his control system here in a minute. Very impressive railroad. This is a little video of what he's running the power system. He runs a full-blown Digitrack system. He's got a DCS 100 with a DB 150 and using a Tech 4 for his power supply system to operate. And then he's running his Digitrack throttles that he plugs in or runs remote. Fantastic operation. Northbound 1635's approaching. He's going to take the siding at Thendara, get out of the way of the passenger train. Alright, she's coming on through. So we've got a pass going on right now at the station. Alright, we've got the southbound train coming from Montreal to Utica, New York. Passenger train's about to come into the depot. What station are we coming into?
This is McKeever. It's a scratch-built station on the style of the Remsen station, except they added a second floor to it.
That's fantastic.
And, one of the things I did on my COVID quarantine.
You do interiors in it yet, Charlie?
I did walls and window shades, but not furniture.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed the window shades in it.
Yeah.
And the roof details, are
The
those?
roof is paper shingles put on with Aleene's. The chimney is Tichy. Windows are Tichy. And the rest of it's, well, novelty siding styrene and just plain styrene.
That's really good, Charlie.
It was originally built as a one-story, and in 1913, probably for the railroad to save money, they put a second story for the station master and his family, and probably reduced his pay.
And it was way off the beaten path, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, another place accessible only by train.
All right, I'm here on a feature of Charlie's layout. I'd like him to explain what he's wired into his railroad here.
Okay. We automated the turnouts for the return loop, so a train can run the loop continuously without stopping. As you can see, the turnout is thrown against the passenger train, and as he'll hit the indicator rail here, and it throws the turnout.
Very steady.
Yeah, so that is nice. The reverse loops can be run continuously without being tended, and there is a double pole, double throw. If it's not in the position you want before a train gets there, you can throw it.
And you're running a tortoise?
Tortoise.
Okay. All right. Charlie, I noticed you obviously have a passion for the logging industry and the area you model. Tell us a little bit about your logging operations here.
Well, logging for the Adirondacks was and is a very important industry. When I moved the layout to 1952, one of the logging companies still using the rails was the Grass River Railroad. They lettered their locomotives GRR. And they, at that time, were using a 44 tonner to move the logs around. They continued in operation until 1958, and then we changed over to chainsaws, feller bunchers, all the automated logging equipment today. They had their own shop-built log buggies. These were 21 feet long. I've got several of them here loaded up. They used Barnhart loaders, and I still have a blacksmith car on it. 52. In my railroad, they were still sharpening saws and axes. And the caboose, still available today from Hobby Link, is a Grass River Railroad prototype. It was a tiny caboose they had on the line. This is the log pond at Buck Pond. One of the ways from the more remote areas, they would float logs into a pond, corral them, pull them onto the shore. You see we've got the big Clydesdales doing the work they were bred for, not pulling a beer wagon. And stacking the logs, and then they're going to use the Barnhart loader to load the log cars.
All right, so the GRR's getting ready to deliver some loads over to the mill?
That's correct. Let's see. Well, he forgot that he needs to pull his empties first.
All right, so we're going to do some switching here at the mill. And you're using little skewers to uncouple your cars?
Correct. Bamboo skewers.
Okay. And who makes the little GE 44 tonner you use?
That's a Bachmann.
Okay. Happy with the performance you get out of small locomotives?
Yeah.
Do their job.
Yeah, they perform very well. I don't tax them, but they.
And you put your own decoder in them?
This one came with a decoder and was actually lettered for the Pensy, and I just scraped off the Pensy letters and put the GRR with the dry transfers.
Okay. Well, I know watchers are curious. They're watching you throw switches. What kind of switches are you using?
These are
on your...
Picos with ground throws.
Okay. And what code track are you using?
This is all code 100. It's what I had when I started, so I've never gone to 83
Okay.
or anything.
Now, one of the awesome features you have on your railroad that I noticed was that you're weathering between your rails, Charlie.
Yeah.
It's kind of a signature of your modeling.
I'm always trying to make that better, and one of the advantages with modular is when I'm building a module, I'll get the track down, make sure I have my electrical connections, I can run trains on it. Then I take it outside and just spray with a Rust-Oleum flat camo. As it sets up, I'll run a wooden block along the rail heads, and you get a nicely painted and weathered rail. I can, and I can show you, lately I've been doing dry brushing. After Peter Youngblood's clinic on trackside detailing, I actually, on the reverse loop at Remsen, have started painting some of the ties different colors, because he.
So how do you get the black down the center of your road bed?
I put for down the center, we'll put tape, painter's masking tape over the rail heads, leave the center open, and with an airbrush just lightly brush down the.
Just using black, or
using black, grimy black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie, it's been a while since I've been over here to your railroad. I really like this new addition that you put in here. Tell us a little bit about what all you've been working on here.
Well, this represents Remsen, New York, which is the southern terminus of the Adirondack Division. From here, it was a short trip to the New York Central Main Line at Utica. Several railroads came into Remsen, and this has been up about a little over a year. The Remsen Depot, the train is crossing by. You know what? Maybe we can pull out that other one and get a better look. Is a laser art by Branch Lines kit that is a standard small New York Central station, which is what they had at Remsen. Sadly, it was demolished in 1960 or 61, and happily they rebuilt built a copy of it in the 1990s. There is a New York Central freight house that the observation car is passing. Tomar kit. They had a similar one in Remsen, and then just for my operating group, I've got in a sawmill, so we can bring log cars there. We'll show you that later. Remsen also had a creamery and an ice house, and they processed milk for shipment to both Montreal and New York City. And one of my iconic pieces, Tishy makes the actual style steel water tank that's still at Remsen, and just so you know where you are, they put on at Remsen Depot.
Very nice.
And yeah, it's a very nice kit, and it is an accurate representation of the Remsen water tank. My only difference is I made it a little taller because the prototype is on a hill, and they made it shorter. I don't have the hill, so I made it a little taller.
And then you've also got yourself three staging tracks as well that you can bring trains into.
Cool. Well, I've got a staging track by the depot, a stub-ended track by the freight house, stub-ended track by the sawmill, and a stub-ended track at the dairy. So the local freights can switch out there, and the log trains can bring in logs and have them cut off.
And I noticed the interior of your buildings. I've actually seen a really nice looking tile floor that you did.
Yeah, that's one of my next up projects is to do interiors. that is the evergreen styrene 9-inch tiles, which are pretty darn close to like a standard floor tile. And then some careful brushwork. I'll lift it off and show you. You can
nice.
paint
Very
in
nice.
a pattern on the floor and give some interest. And people will certainly say, well, there's an interior there. There's a floor. There's a barber shop. Checkerboard was tough. That's why you saw later I started doing less involved patterns. And the restaurant does have tables. I still got to do chairs.
All right. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Nice details around your gas station as well.
Yeah, that I forget whose kit that was, but that was one heck of a kit, and they gave you a lot of detail parts, variety of cars, and of course you got to have advertisements on the side of the buildings.
And you got a great sign on the front. Okay, yes, I missed the signage on the sides. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Weathered and everything. Looks really good.